When you're ready, grab the floaters. You're ready to start near the floating, and you can use these tools and gadgets to animate objects.
Oh, alright.
Select the action recorder, the icon with a film strip and a plus sign on it.
Hey guys, Andrew Goodguy here, just playing some Dreams.
You'll now have an action recorder gadget on your image.
Just doing some
Stamp
tutorials.
it down, somewhere near the floating ledge. A progress bar will appear at the top of the screen, along with a record button on the right.
So, right now I'm just starting to
Also, your
do
ink will turn
tutorials.
red.
Once I do
This
all the
means
tutorials, I'll
you're
start
ready to
making
start
Andrew, so it
recording.
won't be too long.
Don't worry, recording won't start until you begin moving or changing things. When you're ready, grab the floating ledge with R2. Move it slowly towards Connie using the motion sensor function or the sticks. You'll notice that the bar starts to fill, recording your every move. Don't worry, it's not a time limit. The bar fills up as a visual indicator of something being recorded, so take your time. When you let go of R2, the recording will pause. If you move your view or use the grab cam, that won't be recorded. But if you've started time with R3, recording will continue when you let go of R2. That's why it's important to rewind or pause time before recording anything. That way, your action recorder only contains what you put into it. When you've finished recording, select the stop recording button in the context menu. Or you can use the shortcut L1 and circle button to exit the action recorder. Your
It
input will go back to
works.
normal to show that recording has stopped.
Yay! Now
Click
Connie
R3
can go
to play
over.
back your animation. Handmade animations are always a bit wobbly, but practice makes perfect. Calibrating your imp can help when using the motion sensor function. Just hold your controller in a comfortable position, then hold the options button for a few seconds. In the next step, I'll show you how to edit a recorded animation.
Alright.
Anything you record is stored in the action recorder gadget. If you hover over the floating ledge, the action recorder will pulse. Select the action recorder with X and dashed lines will appear on the objects animated with it. It'll also show the animation path. That's this dashed line. If you're not happy with your animation, redoing it is easy. First, rewind time with L3. Then hover over the action recorder gadget, hold L1 and press X. Now we can start recording again. Select the retake button in the context menu to replace the old animation. Now you can record a new one. Move the platform so it stops in front of Connie. You can undo actions you perform using the left directional button, but it won't undo any time that has passed. So it's better to use the retake button to undo animations.
I need to do it again.
Move the floating ledge from the upper platform down to Connie. Don't worry if the animation's too slow or too fast. We can fix that later. Make sure you press the stop recording button when you're done. Spend a little time practicing with the action recorder. In the next step, I'll show you how to tweak your animation.
That's good.
Another way to edit animations is to tweak them. Hold L1 and press the square button over the action recorder gadget to open its tweak menu. Here you can see all the tweaks for the action recorder. By default, the playback mode is set to loop, so it plays the animation over and over again. But you can set them to play once, sustain, or to ping pong. Once will play the whole animation just one time. Sustain will play the animation for as long as the action recorder has power. If it loses power, it will stop. Then it will continue from that point when it's powered again. Ping pong plays the animation forward once, and then plays it in reverse. Then forward, then backwards, and so on. That sounds like a good option for our floating ledge. Select ping pong with X. Click R3 to start time and play the animation.
Yeah, I'm gonna redo that, actually. Before I do that, I wanna... Oh wait, crap, I need you. I'm gonna retake... Alright, now do the... Alright, now do ping pong. There we go. Sad to know nobody looks at my streams anymore.
You can also change the animation speed to make it slower or faster. Grab the slider with X and use your imp to change the speed. If you want to explore more of the action recorder tweaks, you can. If you hover over any button for a few seconds, a more info tip will explain what that tweak does. To close the tweak menu, just hold L1 and press the circle button anywhere over it. And of course, you can undo any changes you make by pressing the left directional button. Switch to play mode to test your changes. When you're ready, come back to edit mode and start the next step.
Yay!
Now that Connie's made it up to the higher platform, how will she get back down to the next one? First, rewind time with L3. You probably already know about cloning objects, but do you know that you can clone their animations along with them? I'm sure you remember how to clone, but if not, just hold L1 and grab the ledge you animated with R2. Once you've made the clone, release L1, then move the ledge to the other side and release R2 to place it. Not only did you clone the ledge, but you also cloned its animation. Click R3 to start time. Now we just need to flip it so that it moves in the correct direction. First, make sure you rewind time. Grab the platform with R2. Then click L3 to flip it horizontally. Depending on where you grabbed it, you might have to move it closer to the other platform after flipping. You may also need to realign it with triangle before releasing R2 to put it back down. Now click R3 to start time, and the platform should move in opposite directions. Both animations are stored in the same action recorder. Now that Connie's made it up to the
Oh wait, there we go, there we go.
How will she get back down to the next one? First, rewind time with L3. You probably already know about cloning objects, but do you know that you can clone their animations along with them? I'm sure you remember how to clone, but if not, just hold L1 and grab the ledge you animated with R2. Once you've made the clone, release L1, then move the ledge to the other side and release R2 to place it. Not only did you clone the ledge, but you also cloned its animation. Click R3 to start time. Now we just need to flip it so that it moves in the correct direction. First, make sure you rewind time. Grab the platform with R2. Then click L3 to flip it horizontally. Depending on where you grabbed it, you might have to move it closer to the other platform after flipping. You may also need to realign it with triangle before releasing R2 to put it back down. Now click R3 to start time, and the platform should move in opposite directions. Both animations are stored in the same action recorder. So if you retake or delete the action recorder, it will affect both animations. Now go into play mode and see if Connie can make it across.
But I don't get it. I did what you said.
Up to the higher platform, how will she get back down to the next one? First, rewind time with L3. You probably already know about cloning objects, but do you know that you can clone their animations along with them? I'm sure you remember how to clone, but if not, just hold L1 and grab the ledge you animated with R2. Once you've made the clone, release L1, then move the ledge to the other side and release R2 to place it.
Okay, let's see. Hold L1 before grabbing.
Not only did you
oh yeah, I know how to clone.
but you also cloned its animation. Click R3 to start time. Now we just need to flip it so that it moves in the correct direction.
Horizontally.
First, make sure you rewind time.
Oh, so I don't know if I did it
Grab the
wrong.
platform with R2. Then click L3 to flip it horizontally. Depending on where you grab it,
yes, there we go.
move it closer to the other platform after flipping. You may also
I can just jump.
realign
Yeah,
it
I'll
with
just jump.
triangle before releasing R2 to put it back
Oh wait,
down.
you know what? I'll just
Now
move it a
click
bit.
R3 to start time, and the platform should move in opposite directions. Both animations are stored in the same action recorder. So if you retake or delete the action recorder, it will affect both animations.
Yep, there we go.
Now go into play mode and see if Connie can make it across both gaps.
That was close. Off.
Switch back to edit mode when you're ready to move on.
Alright, I want to see if it's able. If I'm able to. If I'm not, then I'll have to redo this thing. Alright. Alright, there we go.
Now let's get Connie to Cuthbert and get them through the door.
I know.
I've placed a shiny helper cube. Let's call it Cuthbot. That holds up the next platform, but it's not very animated at the moment. To get it to walk back and forth towards the exit, we need to use record possession. It allows you to possess puppets and record a performance with them.
Ah, there we go.
Open the assembly menu, then go to the animate menu.
Now place
Select
it.
record possession. It's the button with the sock puppet icon. Your imp can now possess the puppets in the scene. In the context menu, you'll see the count-in button. When this is selected, you'll get a 3-second count-in before recording starts. Press R2 over the Cuthbot to possess the puppet and start the countdown. When the count reaches 0, the possession recorder begins recording. Unlike the action recorder, it records constantly. So time will be recorded even when the cube isn't moving. Walk the Cuthbot around the obstacles to the final platform. Pause for a moment, turn around, then walk back to where the Cuthbot started. Starting and ending at the same place will help to make the animation loop smoothly.
Retake.
Press the circle button to depossess. You'll notice that the recording pauses when you depossess. Select Stop Recording in the context menu to exit the possession recorder. Once you've stopped recording, click L3 to rewind time, then R3 to start time, and watch what you've recorded.
Maybe these could be helpful when I'm making Andrew. Yeah, they could actually.
In the last step, I'll show you how to edit the recorded possession.
Yep. Alright, last one before I continue.
You may have noticed a possession recorder gadget has appeared next to the cuff bot.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
When you're using record possession, this gadget appears the moment you press the stop recording button.
Please enter a comment. I haven't had comments in a while.
The possession recorder gadget also lets you edit and tweak the animation.
Okay, I know how to do that.
Press X over the possession recorder to scope in and edit it. Just like the action recorder, you can choose to retake the animation by selecting the button in the context menu. To stop editing the possession recorder, select stop recording in the context
I have a feeling he's gonna say this.
or hold L1 and press the circle button to quickly scope out. You can also tweak the possession recorder with L1 and the square button. It has exactly the same options as the action recorder. Experiment with the recorder and the different tweak
I knew
options.
it.
Remember, you can see more info about the tweak settings by hovering over them for a few seconds. Close the tweak menu by pressing L1
Yeah,
and
looks
the circle
good.
button anywhere over it. Once you're done editing,
Yeah,
switch
that's
over
good.
to play mode to test out the completed scene. Then Connie can navigate to the last platform and help Cuthbert through the door to complete
Oh,
the tutorial.
Okay, now that's too fast. I think I should go back to 150. Yeah, I'll do it. It's way too fast. I don't want a 200, I want a 150 now. Alright, now let's go back into play mode. Yeah, that's way better. Yes. Finally, that tutorial is complete. Alright, so I know how to make obstacles now and animations. I'm just a beginner, so if there's no more beginning ones, then I'll continue
In
on.
this tutorial, you're going to learn all about the exciting world of logic.
2 plus 2. He's stupid,
Pay
confirmed.
no attention to Cuthbert. It's not as complicated as it sounds. I promise.
Oh yeah, you promise.
Let's
You
check
better
out the
promise.
scene. See the buttons on the platforms in front of our good friend Connie?
Yes.
They activate the bridges that will take her to the next platform.
No, I'm
At
getting all the
least that's what
tutorials
they're
ready, so
supposed
I know
to
how to
do.
make it. So it's
To
in
get them
development, but
working, you'll need
I haven't
to
started
connect
the
to
production yet,
gadgets
so I
that
have to
control
do a couple of things.
You can't see gadgets when you're in play mode, but they let you do all sorts of useful things in edit mode. You can tell gadgets apart by their color and icons. Green gadgets are sensors and inputs.
Gosh,
This
listen.
one is what we call a trigger zone. It's one of the more versatile gadgets.
I've seen you before.
It can
You
trigger
have been
other
in one of
gadgets
the
when it detects
tutorials.
something in the scene. Like in this case, Connie standing on the button. Hi, Connie.
Hello.
If you select the gadget with X, you'll be able to see its detection zone. That's it, right there above
Yeah,
the button.
it's the tutorial.
Press the circle button to deselect the trigger zone, and let's look at the next gadget. Is a pink gadget with X, you'll be able to see its detection zone. That's it, right there above the button. Pink gadgets is a using the Before we start connecting things, make sure you can see both gadgets. You'll notice they have ports sticking out of their sides.
It's a good movie.
Ports on the left are inputs, and the ones on the right are outputs. Hover over the output port on the trigger zone now. You'll see the word detected appear. That means that when the trigger zone detects something, this output will send a signal. Before it can send that signal to the rotator though, we'll need to connect them with a wire. So hover over the detected output and press R2 or X. You'll notice your imp is now tethered to the port by a wire. Power ports have appeared on the gadgets too. It's these ports that switch gadgets on or off.
What's this game called? It's called Dreams.
Drag the wire over to the rotator gadget. Now hover over the power port at the bottom, then press R2 or X. Once the gadgets are connected, the wire will disappear automatically. That way, your scene won't get cluttered. After all, you don't want wires all over the place.
Yes, it is on the PS4.
You can see the wire again by hovering over either gadget. Okay, time to test our connection out. So let's switch over
to play mode
in the options menu.
But when part 2 comes out, I'll probably start working on the game.
Now the trigger zone detects Connie when she stands on the button and activates the rotator on the bridge.
Sean,
as soon as she steps off,
Derek is on this platform and I'm going to spin him off.
You can use the button to get the bridge lined up with the platform.
Woo!
Once Connie can make it to the second platform, you can head back to edit mode.
Alright, edit mode.
And
go on to the next step.
Now that we've connected the rotator, let's take a look at the second platform. See the yellow gadget on its side? This gadget isn't a sensor or an output. It's called a microchip.
Oh yeah, I've seen this in Connie's brain. I played this game for 2 days because it just came out 2 days ago.
As boxes of gadgets and wires. Let's have a look inside.
Okay, so that wire's going over there.
Hold L1 and
this
press
one
X.
is depressed because he's nowhere to go.
It's just like scoping into a group of objects. This window is the microchip's canvas. And if these gadgets look familiar, it's because they're 2 rotators. Each one controls half of this jointed drawbridge. Try to connect the output from the trigger zone to the power ports on the rotators. You can create multiple wires from the same output.
Alright.
Or you can clone wires in the scene by holding L1, then grabbing them with R2. Clone the wire near the rotator to create a new wire from the trigger zone. Once you've connected the trigger zone to the second rotator, switch over to play mode and make sure it's all working. Okay, jumping on the button now will activate the trigger zone and raise the drawbridge so that you can cross over the... Oh, wait a minute. It just dropped down before Connie could cross. That's because the signal to the rotator stopped sending as soon as Connie stepped off the trigger zone. Switch back to edit mode and rewind time.
With L3, yeah, I know.
L3. In the next step, I'll show you how to make signals stay on. If we want the bridge to stay up, we'll need to add a gadget between the trigger zone and the rotator to keep it activated. We can do this with a counter. So let's go into the assembly menu. Press square to open it if it's closed. Select the gadgets menu with X. You'll find the counter in the logic and processing section. The gadgets in this menu take an input signal and change it in some way before sending it on. Go ahead and select the counter. Its icon is a tally counter. Now you can see the gadget on your imp. Hover over the microchip and it will snap to the canvas. Press R2 or X to stamp the counter onto the microchip. Then press circle to unequip it. The counter gadget counts up or down whenever it receives a signal through its inputs. By default, it starts its count at 0 and has a target of 1. Once it reaches that target, it sends a constant signal through its counter-full output port. Before we connect it though, let's tidy up the wires connecting the trigger zone to the rotators. Just hover over them and press triangle to delete them. Now press R2 or X over the detected output of the trigger zone to create a new wire. Connect it to the increase count input port on the counter. That's the port with the plus sign icon.
Yeah, I was right.
Now when the trigger zone is activated, the counter will go up to 1. And, this is the important part, it will stay at 1 even after the trigger zone deactivates. Now hover over the counter-full output port of the counter. This port sends a signal when the counter reaches its target. Create a wire with R2 or X and connect it to one of the rotator's power ports. Then do the same for the other one. Time to switch to play mode and try out our new connections. When you're happy everything's working as it should,
Alright, now try
return to edit
play mode
and move on to the next step.
Uh-oh, something's broken. Oh, for God's sake, stop going into that tweaker. Alright, let's see what the problem is. So, if I go 10 seconds back.
Other one. Time to switch to play mode and try out our new connections.
Ah, so that was the problem.
When you're happy everything's working as it should, return to edit mode and move on to the next step.
I think I forgot to do it with the other one too. Yeah, we're gonna do it with the two of them. Sad nobody wants to spend time with me. I must be so used to that tweak button. Alright, now I have to get the other one. I'll just place it here. There you go. Alright, now give it a try. Yay! It works!
Just one more bridge for Connie to cross. As you can see, we have another microchip on the platform. So let's open it up. Hover over it with your imp, hold L1 and press X. Okay, looks like we have everything we need here. But Connie's an adventurer, so how about we make this last bridge more challenging? Adding a timer to the logic should get the adrenaline going. Once Connie activates the button, she'll only have a few seconds to cross before the bridge drops back down. Let's head back to the assembly menu. If it isn't already open, press square. Then go into the gadgets section. You'll find the timer in the same place as the counter, the logic and processing section. Its button has a clock face on it. Now go ahead and stamp the timer gadget onto the microchip with R2 or X. Then unequip it from your imp with the circle button. Now let's take a closer look at the timer's inputs and outputs. You can see their names by hovering over the ports. The first input is a start timer port. Once this receives a signal, it will start the clock. The second one is reset timer, which sets the time back to 0. Over on the output side, we have timer finished and timer output. Timer finished sends a signal when the timer reaches the required number. It's set to 5 seconds by default. Timer output is a little more sophisticated. The signal it sends represents the timer's current progress. If, let's say, it's only halfway to its target, the signal it sends will be half strength. So how do we connect this so the bridge only stays up for a few seconds? Well, we need the bridge to be raised while the timer is running. So create a wire on the timer output with R2 or X. Remember how we used the counter on the previous platform? We can use one here too. Just like before, connect the wire to the counter's increase count input. Then connect the counter full output to the rotator's power port. Time to see if it works. Click R3 to test it out. As you can see, since the timer isn't connected to a trigger yet, the clock starts ticking as soon as we play the scene. The bridge goes up, but doesn't drop down when the timer finishes. That can only mean one thing. There's a problem with the logic. If you'd like to figure it out for yourself, feel free to check the gadgets and see what's wrong. Or move on to the next step and we'll go through it together. So let's take a look at why the bridge stayed up after the timer finished instead of going back down. Remember how we used the counter earlier to remember the signal from the trigger zone? Well, now it's remembering the signal from the timer, so we need to make it forget that once the timer finishes. Let's go over to the counter gadget. Hover over the inputs to see their names. This one here is reset count. It'll put the counter back to 0, which will turn off the rotator. So all we need to do is connect it to the timer, but to which output? Aha, there we go. We can use the timer finished output. Hover over it and create a wire with R2 or X. Then stretch the wire over to the counter and connect it to the reset count input. But we also need to reset the timer, otherwise the logic will only work once. So let's get another wire from the timer finished output and connect this one to the reset timer input. You'll recognize it by the rewind symbol on it. All we have left to do is to connect the trigger zone to the start timer port so Connie can activate it. Okay, that was a lot of connections. So before we test it out, let's go over the logic we've made. First, Connie activates the trigger zone, which sends a signal to start the timer. Once the clock starts running, the timer output becomes active. This tells the counter to count up. That then turns on the rotator and raises the bridge. Now this is where the really clever stuff kicks in. After 5 seconds, the timer finishes its count, which activates the timer finished output. This in turn resets the counter to 0, cutting the signal to the rotators and lowering the bridge. And let's not forget, it also resets the timer, so the logic could be triggered again if Connie didn't cross the bridge the first time.
Oh.
Isn't logic exhilarating? Take your time digesting all that. Logic is easier to read if you route your wires neatly. Grab wires with X to change their paths. You can also move the gadgets around by grabbing them with R2. Feel free to test it out in play mode, but don't leave the scene just yet. I have one more thing to show you. So, on the third platform, we've set up let's make it a little bit more challenging. First, if you're in play mode, switch back to edit mode and rewind time with L3. Let's move in closer to the microchip with the timer. You can use the grab cam, R1, to move your view. Now I'll show you how to tweak a gadget's settings. Hover over the timer gadget, hold L1 and press square. This tweak menu contains the settings for the timer. Hover over the sliders and buttons to see their names. The top slider sets the target time for the timer. If we lower this setting, the bridge will stay up for a shorter time. To adjust the value, hover your imp over the slider, then hold X. Use your imp to drag the slider left or right. Set it to around 3 seconds. It doesn't have to be exact. If you're a stickler for precision, you can adjust the slider incrementally using the up and down directional buttons. Just hover your imp over the slider and press up or down to tweak the value. In fact, why don't we make things really interesting for Connie? Let's set it to 2.5 seconds. You can close the tweak menu now by selecting the cross in the top corner with X. Or you could use a shortcut. Just hold L1, then press circle while hovering over the menu to close it quickly. The same shortcut works for closing microchips. Give it a try now. Hold L1, then hover your imp over the microchip and press circle. Time to test out the scene in play mode. If you have any problems crossing that last bridge, you can always tweak the timer again in edit mode. Remember, you just hover over the gadget, hold L1 and press square to open its tweak menu. When you're all set, take Connie to the last platform and walk through the door to complete this tutorial.
Yay, another tutorial done, guys.
When things don't sound the way they should, it can ruin the experience of playing. Don't worry, Cuthbert. The Dreamiverse contains heaps of ready-made sounds for us to use. First, let's switch over to play mode and see how it all sounds at the moment. Quiet, isn't it? Doesn't feel quite right. In fact, it's creeping me out, so let's head back into edit mode.
Suicide!
Switch over to sound mode so we can start adding some sounds. Find the modes menu. It's inside the assembly menu. As you can see, there are lots of different modes. Each has its own set of tools for doing different things. We're currently in assembly mode. If you select the speaker symbol icon with X, we'll switch to sound mode. That's better. In the next step, we'll start adding sounds to the scene. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to start adding some background sound.
These streams